Okay, so I'm setting up to do live painting of, working on a portrait of Lauren Mitchell, blues artist Lauren Mitchell here in Sarasota. I talked about it the last time I made a video. I made my 200th video last week, and I said I'll be on later today doing a live feed painting of Lauren Mitchell, and I never got back on because my iPad was acting up, or YouTube or something or other, who knows. So I'm going to do it today. But anybody that's watching this knows that my life is up, down, up, down, up, down, a lot of downs in terms of, you know, breathing. And I alluded to the fact that I had a really tough summer, and kind of alluded to why. Well, let me get my paper towels before I forget, because I will. But let me explain why. I had a really tough summer, and I didn't make many videos. I didn't get much artwork done because I have a scooter, right? You know, had a scooter, a Buddy. I bought it for my daughter-in-law. I loved it. Every time I looked at it or touched it, I thought of my daughter-in-law, my beautiful daughter-in-law, and her father, and the day they drove it from Boston down to me in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, or in Central Falls. And it was the first time I had met her father, the second time I had met her. I worked really hard to pay it off. It took a long time and a lot of patience on my son and his wife's end, and I loved my scooter. I loved my scooter, and I loved riding on it with Bugsy. Well, unfortunately, like so many people, I had a mechanic who I thought was you know, a good guy, decent man, running a decent business, and that he just had an extraordinarily bad luck with my scooter. And what was happening, I believe, was I was paying him and he wasn't really doing the work. So the issues just kept continuing on. And supposedly we kept replacing parts, but now I'm questioning that because they had this last bout of let's fix this thing. They had it for 3 months, over 3 months. And they supposedly had to replace the engine. And what happened was they waited 13 weeks, I believe, 12 weeks, and then messaged me that they were replacing the engine. They had taken it out. And I wrote back and I said, please don't contact me until the work is done. I can't take getting my hopes up anymore. Because it was pretty much every week, we're going to get it done, we're going to get it, oh, we're starting it Tuesday, oh, we're starting it Wednesday, oh, we'll have it ready for you on Friday, we'll have it ready on Saturday. And nothing happened. And so I said, please don't contact me until the job is done. And this was three Saturdays ago. And the girlfriend of the business owner wrote me back a really horrible, vicious message telling me that it was my fault that the work was never done in 3 months, that they don't work for free, and that I expected them to work for nothing, which is not true because I paid them. I'd been paying them for work that was never done. They blamed me for 36 other people not paying their bills. It just kind of went on and on and on. And it was horrible. And that was my summer, was just having no way to get around, no way to take my dog Bugsy for a ride anywhere, couldn't get to the grocery store on my own. And so it was devastating to me. A couple of weeks I could take, a month I could take, 3 months later of promises and nothing getting done I couldn't take. So I went down a rabbit hole this summer. And just kind of, I'm not really out of it. I'm still very, very sad. The mechanic, they screwed up the last repair, which was 13 weeks to the nose when I had originally dropped it off. They told me, number one, in this horrible message that the girlfriend wrote me, they never wanted to see my face again. That I had to pick up the scooter. I had to pay the balance, which was all of $50 on work they hadn't done it as of yet, and it would be ready that Monday, which it wasn't. It wasn't ready for another 11 days, a week and a half, and that they never wanted to see my face again. And that whole message from the girlfriend really hurt me badly. That was 3 weeks ago. I'm considered pretty trustworthy. I'm well known for doing what I say I'm going to do. I do what I say I'm going to do. I stick to it no matter what. And so I stuck to our payment plans. I did everything I was told, and I trusted them, which was a mistake on my part. I got the scooter back. I literally drove it a block from the shop when it broke down. I got it going again. It broke down again. I got it going again, and it finally completely seized up. It died. It's just overheated and died. Brought it to a second mechanic who said, the mechanic never put a cooling fan in your engine. That's why it's overheated. The engine is completely ruined. The plastic that's in your scooter is melted. He called the first mechanic, the one that screwed it up, and he denied it, and then he said, yeah, I really effed this job up, and I feel bad, but I don't want to fix it. You know, I'll give you the scooter and you can do it. And the second scooter, the second repairman, I'm trying to shorten this, said, no, you're going to pick this up and you're going to fix it. First mechanic picked it up a couple days ago, took it back to his shop, took the original engine, the one that he said needed to be replaced, put it back into the now completely destroyed scooter, brought it back to the second shop and said, done. He was supposed to replace pistons and all this other stuff that had just been completely destroyed, and he didn't. So I'm still upset. I still don't have a drivable scooter. I still have lost the scooter that I got from my daughter-in-law and my son and her parents. It's gone. It's completely, utterly ruined and useless because of this first mechanic. And that is what my entire summer has been. That's what it's been like for me since July. And so now, Monday, it looks like I'm going to go get a new scooter. I have to get on a payment plan to do it. It's just such a thing. But my heart is broken because my first scooter is gone. It's gone. Because I trusted this apparently habitual liar, and I never would have pegged him for one. But then again, I'm a really bad judge of character. I am notoriously bad judge of character. So that's why I haven't made many videos. That's why I haven't gotten a lot of work done. But it's just the way it is. So this time next week I'll have a new scooter. My heart will not be in it. But at least I'll be able to do basics, like get my laundry done, which will be nice. So today I'm going to do what I said I was going to do last week. I'm going to actually get to it. I'm going to work on my painting of Lauren Mitchell, the blues singer Lauren Mitchell here in Sarasota. She's usually touring a lot. She has a CD out. She looks odd from that angle. Very odd. She has a CD out. It's doing well on Sirius XM, Sirius Blues. She's on all kinds of blues and soul stations. She's always playing in Gainesville. She kind of goes all over the place to play. She's got a fabulous band, and I was asked if I would be interested in doing her portrait, and it's like, dude, I've been thinking about doing it for a long time. So here we are. When I get this done, which will be weeks from now, when I get this done, it's going to be professionally photographed, and Lauren will be using it at her shows or somewhere. But this is kind of a mutual admiration society portrait, because she likes my work and I love the way she sings. So that's what I'm working on. Drinking my coffee. I almost laid down to take a nap because I'm still so sad over my scooter. I was just like, I don't want to do anything. But I thought, do something or you're going to feel even worse. So I'm going to work on this. I'm going to put on WGBH. I know somebody's writing me. I don't have, where are my glasses? I can't read the messages. Sorry. I'm going to put on WGBH in Boston ahead of time, dear YouTube, if they play a song in the middle of it that I haven't copyright whatever, I can't help it. In one of my videos, somebody played Hanson. Oh crap, is it Irish music? Okay, no, we're not going to listen to that. I was making a video one day, and the show I was listening to played Hanson in the middle of it. That got that, and the company that owns the copyright to Hanson's Mbop wanted to charge me with copyright infringement for 17 seconds that I had no control over. So we're careful, trying to be, anyway. Studio 360. Snap Judgement. Snap Judgement sounded really good today. Yeah, we're going to play Snap Judgement on NPR. Snap is a spoken word and storytelling show that I just love. This is number 823, The Incident at Poison Spider Mesa. And I'm going to get to painting, and that's that.
Okay, so today on Snap, we meet Brody Young. And Brody Young has one of those jobs for which only the truly tough should apply. He's a state park ranger at a place called Dead Horse Point, deep in the canyonlands of southern Utah. And the thing is, when you're a ranger in those parts, it also means that you're the law enforcement. Now Brody, of course, he takes that part of the job seriously. But his real love, his first love, is the desert, the canyons, the rivers, the place. Snap Judgement.
So let's talk about the stars that come out at night. You can see all the stars. It's just so clear and so dark. It's considered dark sky country. And when the sun rises and you go, on the cliff's edge up at Dead Horse Point, you can see mountain ranges that are 100 and 150 miles away. It's just desolate and vast, and if you don't go out prepared, it's going to bite you. I've recovered a lot of bodies, whether they were on the river, or got lost in those canyons, and they just weren't prepared. So you're putting yourselves on a tightrope, and it's easy to fall. In Desolation Canyon on the Green River, there's a few places you can go see a skull, which is odd, isn't it? But someone dies in the desert, they're gonna stay there for a long time before they're found. And some people choose to go die alone in a beautiful place. That happens actually kind of frequently, and that's something I have a hard time understanding. How can life get so bad that you want to end it? November 19th, 2010, I was on patrol. I was on an extra shift. I'd worked that day, but there was some overtime money available. And it's a really warm night. It's kind of the warm before the storm. Then I went down this Colorado River corridor to these trailheads to see if anyone is still up onto the trails. And the first trailhead I went to was Poison Spider Mesa Trailhead. So I found this lone car in the kind of back of the parking lot, and it was parked really awkward-like. I was worried someone would be out on the trail still that hadn't made it back. It was kind of late, and late in the season too, so I couldn't see a plate, and I kind of rolled up to it and turned on my overhead white lights and got out of my truck and walked around to the driver's side, and I see this lump in the back seat. And I think, oh man, someone's sleeping in there. And so I knock on the window, and I knock on it several times. And this gentleman wakes up, and he opens the door, and I tell him who I am and ask if he's okay. And then he said he was, and then we talked about where he could go camp, because camping wasn't allowed in that parking lot. And he was in a sleeping bag, so I didn't get a good look at his face. His face today still doesn't mean much, but I needed to get some ID on him, and he doesn't have any, or doesn't want to give me ID, so I asked him to wait there, and I walked back to my truck. And I looked back once, which is what you're supposed to do when you're on a traffic stop, but my night vision was blinded from the lights, and I couldn't hear anything but the noise of the truck. But just as I got to my truck door, and just as I was about to get in, that's when the first shot rang out. hits me in my left arm. I'm left-handed. It shatters, and man, I screamed out. And I turn, and I just see muzzle flash, and him advancing on me, firing one shot after the other. 3 more rounds hit my back. 2 of those rounds were stopped by the vest, but the 3rd round broke through and went into my vertebrae. I fell to the ground at that point, and he is just standing right over me, hitting me with round after round. There was a lot of gravel bouncing around. Eventually he stops. And then I had this moment. It's a terrible cliche, but it was either you lay down and die or you get up. And man, I wanted to live. So I got up. It startled him, and he ran to the front of my truck, and I ran to the back of mine. And in the meantime, I'm looking at my left hand, and I'm telling it to grab the gun, but it won't grab the gun. It won't move. And I finally just said to myself, "You idiot, use your other hand." And that's when I began firing back at him through the windows of my truck. I was also counting my rounds because I knew my reload was going to be with my arm dangling, non-traditional. So I released the mag and put the gun between my legs, and I used my bumper to chamber around, and I began shooting more. I fired in all about 24 rounds, and then he raises his hands and I stop shooting, and he says, "You got me." And then I began to go unconscious. I woke up a short time later. I was laying on my back, and I kind of raised my head and looked down my body to see my truck running, and I noticed his car was gone. And then I thought to myself, laying there, no one knows I'm here. I didn't notify anyone that I was out checking on this car. I had been shot 9 times, and I knew that the only way I was going to get help is if I got to that truck radio. But I did not feel right inside. I felt very heavy, like someone had poured concrete on me. My right leg was numb. My left arm was numb, and it was really hard to move. And I slowly began just rolling onto my stomach, rolling onto my back, towards my truck. And this took some time. It felt like forever. And, you know, the exhaust is on and it's pouring out. But eventually I reached the front door. And the front door was open. Joe, I've always made it a point to get out of my truck, leaving that door open. I've just always felt like I should. And I leaned up against it, reached for the radio, and said, "Price 12069. I'm a poison spider, Mesa, Trailhead. I've been shot. Please hurry."
Who did it? And what happens to Brody Young? When Snap Judgement, the shootout at Poison Spider Mesa continues. Stay tuned.
Better angle.
Support for this show comes from Ozzy. That's OZY, a news source covering rising stars, emerging trends, and unconventional ideas. Each day, Ozzy introduces you to people and stories that will shape your world. Ozzy was the first to tell you about Simone Biles, Mike Pence, Christian McCaffrey, Misty Copeland, and more. Give him a try at OZY.com. See beyond. From WNYC. Welcome back to Snap Judgement. When last we left, Brody Young, a state park ranger in Utah, was riddled with bullets and left for dead. Snap Judgement.
Price 12069. I'm a poison spider, Mesa, Trailhead. I've been shot. Please hurry. And, I didn't know what to do after that. All my training, I just didn't know what to do after that. When the ambulance arrived, it took me to the hospital in Moab, and from there I was choppered to the hospital in Grand Junction, where I underwent emergency surgery. But let me just tell you the damage. My heart was hit, small intestine, colon, right kidney, liver, diaphragm, left lung, spine, pelvis, left humerus, left triceps muscle, right forearm, right femoral nerves, right hip flexor. And they told me that I shouldn't be alive. Say I died a couple of times during those first few days in surgery. But after I woke up, I eventually got to the point where I asked, where's the suspect? So I was told that after I was taken to the hospital, they found the car that he had driven off in, and it was definitely off the beaten path. But they noticed that there was a blood trail that wandered off down the river corridor. And they followed this blood trail for like a mile to a boulder field, and it looked like it had been setting up to ambush anyone who came over the hill, because there was a backpack and a .22 rifle and, food and sleeping gear. And he didn't leave a blood trail from that point on, and so the trail went cold. But when they found his vehicle, they ran the license plate and found that it led them to a name of Lance Leroy Ariano.
Was there anything in his backpack, in the car, that his family could tell you anything that would explain why he shot you multiple times in the middle of the night on a routine traffic stop?
No explanation.
Did he have any kind of criminal record?
Yeah, it was very minor, nothing violent. So why would someone do this? What would lead them down this path to where shoot a cop and run out in the desert and disappear? Not sure why, but federal and state and local agencies began to search for Lance over an area the size of Los Angeles. There was a river search, sonar capability, a helicopter, then there were just a lot of tracking teams, gun in hand and flashlight in the other, crawling through tamarisk bushes that were tall as cottonwood trees. There were a lot of calls. Yeah, we've seen him. Everyone wanted him found, right? And wanted a reward, and a lot of those, all of them turned out to be bogus, but they checked on all of them. They even went down San Diego and searched to see if he was being very well hidden amongst this motorcycle club. I even thought I saw him a couple of times in town. Dark curly hair, and he was wearing a hat. Like at the grocery store, I would, go back to that aisle just to walk past and to make sure. I don't know if he would recognize me. I didn't really get a good look at him if I would recognize him. But I had a couple of dreams, and both dreams were the same. We were at a party, and then I would see Lance come, out of the corner of the room towards me. He would raise his hand, and he would shoot at me, and then I would shoot back, and he would die. And so 1 year after another would pass, and that was kind of torturous, not knowing what happened after, he left me for dead and he drove off. Where did he go? I wanted an ending to it. And then Christmas Eve, 2015, we're making little vials of vanilla to give out to our friends. And I get a knock at the door, and it's my lieutenant. He says, "Come outside real quick," and his face is not right. So I go out and close the door in my front yard, and snow on the ground, and he says, "We found him." Two brothers had found the body in a cave, half buried in mud. And I broke down. I just couldn't believe it, because I thought he would never be found. And I'll tell you, it's only 400 yards from where the backpack was. He went 400 yards and crawled into this crack of a cave. So I got to see the evidence at the sheriff's office, and boy, saw the bones, and it was still in the sleeping bag, but they had it opened, and then it was kind of laid out, head, ribs, arms, and it's really hard to determine how he passed away, but I imagine he was probably scared. Because when you're hurt and you're out in the middle of nowhere and it's dark and it's getting colder and it's starting to snow, you can't warm up, you're cold, your breathing is getting worse, that's got to be the worst feeling in the world. And it's probably why he crawled into that cave, was just to rest. And there was a letter amongst his stuff, and it was from his daughter. His daughter talked about, we're finally going to be able to spend this Thanksgiving together, and she was really looking forward to it. But he didn't live beyond that night. He just laid down in that cave and didn't get back up. I didn't know him. I didn't even really get a good look at his face. But several times I'm told that I shouldn't be alive. So I don't know what death feels like, but I guess I know what it feels to get close to it. And lying on the ground before anyone showed up, I felt like I had help by me that night. It was really hard it's hard to describe Joe. But all I can say is that there was such a comfort, arms wrapped around me, that the other side, maybe it's not going to be so bad.
I don't know. What do you think Lance felt? Do you think he experienced what you experienced?
That's a hard question. I hope so. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll get to ask the question, but it won't be in this life.
Sharing his story to Snap. After a long recovery, he's back to doing what he loves, working as a state park ranger in the deserts of southern Utah. But he's also taking motivational speaking, helping other people figure out how to survive the unsurvivable. To learn more, we'll have links to his website on our website, snapjudgement.org. The original score for that story was by Leon Morimoto. It was produced by Joe Rosenberg. Now then, in case you didn't know, the Snap Judgement Live crew is hitting the road with our biggest, baddest show ever. Yes, I'm bringing Jamie DeWolf. Yes, we have the Joyce Lee. Yes, the closer is on board. Don Reed. Yes. Boston and Philly is happening right now, October 14th and 15th. Get tickets at snapjudgement.org. Kansas City, Salt Lake City, San Diego, finishing up in Oakland. Tickets available at snapjudgement.org. And thank you, Snap-A-Dappers. With over 1 million downloads in just the first month, you've already made Snap Judgement Presents Spooked a big hit. Amazing Stories from People Battling the Forces of the Night is our first separate spin-off podcast, and we are so proud. Be Afraid. 13 full episodes before Halloween. Get them all. Subscribe now however you get your podcast. SpookedPodcast.org. And don't turn out the lights. You can hear Spooked episodes on TuneIn 3 days early. And know this. Even though this right here, this is not the news. This is not the news. In fact, you could run the Naked Marathon, win first place, only to realize the Naked Marathon is next week. And you still not being far away from the news as this is. But this is WNYC.
Okay, like I said earlier, I'm working on this for singer Lauren Mitchell. This piece will be available for sale. Oh God, look at all the glare. I can't see anything. Sorry about all the glare. God, that makes it so difficult. Anyway, I am working on this for blues singer Lauren Mitchell. But if you are interested, in it or any of the work that you see on my website, becklane.com, Beck Lane artist, blah, blah, blah. Any work that you see on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, my website, or here, you see me working on here, please contact me, and I'll put you in touch with Jay Luiz at Blue Egg Gallery in Miami. And, we can take it from there. But like I said, pretty much everything I do, is available through Blue Egg Gallery in Miami. Nifty shop. Nifty gallery, rather. Okay. So I've been reworking her face. I really got to do her arms. Somehow nothing looks quite attached. So, again, I'm sorry about the glare. See something? It doesn't really help. Doesn't help. I just gotta hang in there till I can get another camera. I'm working off my iPad right now, which is nice. Really terrific. It was a gift from a friend. Very generous gift. But I need a little bit better camera. Anyway, I'm going to go back to listening to Snap Judgement on NPR.
Listener supported. WNYC Studios. From the creators of Snap Judgement and WNYC Studios, welcome to Spooked. Real stories from real people crashing against the inexplicable. on Washington. Now, there are several types of mysteries. Things that don't fit into our little preconceived boxes. Deja vu, ESP, spectral travel. But the phenomena T.I. encounters in this next story, I don't know what exactly to call it. But please, universe, please, make sure that it never happens to me. Spook.
Northwest Wisconsin is the epitome of the North Woods. It's a place with tiny communities of people living far apart from one another. And my family had been coming to this area since the early 1930s, and we would spend our summers up out of the city in the North Woods. But when you went out of just your local community, you were a stranger, and you were a stranger like a stranger. I don't know what's the best way to describe it. It's hard to get reactions out of people in this place. They're friendly enough, but you don't really get close unless you're almost a local, and we are still considered outsiders. On this one night, about 20 years ago, my friend and I were coming back from a bar in Ashland, Wisconsin, and we were driving really late at night, and it was starless, and it was pitch black. You couldn't see past the headlights on the road, and even with the bright lights, it was like the forest on each side was just swallowed in darkness. So after driving for probably 40 minutes, it became very apparent that we needed a rest stop. And there was nothing. There were no roadside parks. There are no little towns. My friend Bob, who was driving, said, well, we could just pull off to the side. Now, I walk with a cane, and that's not really an option for me. I don't have outdoor plumbing. And I told him, no way, I can't do that. I just said, please, just drive fast, and we'll find something that's open. And then when we turned down onto the new highway, we came up over a hill, and there we could see this red, bright, illuminated neon light on the side of the road, and that was the Roadhouse Saloon. And it had the beer lights in the windows, cars in the parking lot. Now, mind you, this is like almost 3 o'clock in the morning, and my friend Bob said, oh, this is great. All the locals are talking about this place because they've recently had an artist from Disney Studios paint one of the big walls in a mural. And as we opened the door, there was this big dance floor that had one of those horseshoe-shaped bars, and on the far wall was this mural, and it was an Old West scene. I scanned the room, and there weren't a lot of people there. There were like 3 ladies sitting to my right with cocktails in front of them. There were a couple of guys playing pool off to my left, and there was a bartender standing there, this young man leaning on the bar and just smiling at us, and everybody was looking at us like they were expecting us. And that was something that was very unlike any other bar I've walked into up north. Usually when you walk in, people turn away. So after I came out of the bathroom, Bob handed me a beer, and we decided to go look more closely at the mural on the far wall. As we did that, another young man went to the jukebox, and that's where I noticed that the jukebox was one of the old Wurlitzer jukeboxes that has the 45 vinyl records in it, and it was a beaut. It did not look like it was worn. And he put a coin in the jukebox, and the record went down, and it started playing.
Come on, let's twist again!
Let's twist again like we did last Summer by Chubby Checker. And he comes walking up to me and says, "You want to dance?" And he's got a beer in his hand, and he's kind of teetering a little bit, and I had the perfect excuse. I just pointed to my cane and said, "Sorry, I can't dance." And we went over to the mural, and it was a saloon scene. And on one side of it, there were those swinging saloon doors. There were women sitting at a bar, and there were gamblers sitting at a gambling table. And it was really unusual. It seemed like it had perspective, but it was really unusual, garish perspective. The colors were very harsh. It was almost like floor lit. So it was like almost tunnel-like, but not quite. But then I noticed Bob turn to his right and look behind me and then back at the painting. And I said, "What?" And he said, "Look at those guys at the pool table." And I turned, and I still hadn't heard pool balls. And they were just standing at the pool table, and I looked at them. And then I turned and I looked back at the gentlemen sitting around playing cards in the painting. And it appeared to be those gentlemen. The facial features, it was them. And Bob said, "Let's see if anybody else is in the painting." So we looked at the bartender, and then we turned and looked at the painting, and near the door there was a cowboy gunslinger with a cowboy hat on with the exact same build and features as the bartender. So then this became like a game, and we went face on the painting to face in the bar, and the three ladies that were still sitting at the bar, the real bar where we were, one was up standing by a piano singing. The gentleman who kept putting the money in the jukebox was playing the piano, and every single person in that bar was in that painting, and there was nobody else in that painting. It was the exact number as people in the bar without us. And once again, the young gentleman put another coin in the jukebox. Come on, let's twist again, like we did last summer. And played Let's Twist Again like we did last summer. And then we tried to rationalize it and said that, clearly these people are regulars. So this artist probably came and put these people who are here in the painting. That would be something really cool to do. So we first asked the bartender, "Is that you in the picture?" And the friendliness didn't really evaporate, but it was like the communication was gone. He looked at us and didn't respond verbally, but continued smiling and sort of, shrug nodding as if he did not understand the words that we said. And then I looked at the ladies and said, "Are you in these paintings up there?" And they just looked at me without changing expression at all. And the only people who took a drink of their drink that we saw was Bob and myself. Nobody started playing pool while we were standing there. Nobody did anything except pretty much watch us. And even though from the very beginning the situation was extremely odd, that started to get a little creepy. And I said, let's just go. And Bob said, "Come on, one more." And I'm really susceptible to that kind of thing. And he said, just one more. Let's spend a little more time checking out the mural. And so I reluctantly agreed. And we ordered 2 more. And it was at that point that you could hear the money in the machine and the drop of the record. And once again, it was the same song. It was Let's Twist Again like we did last summer. And, when someone plays a song 2 times in a row, it could be their favorite song. But a 3rd time, that made the hair on my neck stand up. And as we walked back to the mural, across that dance floor, everyone in the place was watching us, and they were watching us so intently that my heart was beating a little harder than it was before. And halfway towards it, I stopped and said, "Wait, what's that?" And Bob looked, and he just said, exactly the same, except there in the doorway, just outside of this painted saloon, were two shadowy figures that were gray, one of a man, one of a woman. And I said, I didn't see that before. I knew I hadn't seen that before. And he said, let's get closer. And as we got closer, I saw that those figures resembled Bob and myself. And when I looked down underneath the swinging door, I noticed that the woman was walking with a cane. And my heart jumped into my throat. And I grabbed Bob and I said, oh my God, look in the doorway. And it looked as though those two figures were being filled in. And Bob dropped the bottles on the bar, grabbed my arm, and we just hightailed it for the door. And as we came across the dance floor, everyone stood up and turned to us, and the guy that had been playing the record started walking towards us, and we just burst through the door with the music still playing, with the light still blazing in the windows. And as soon as that door shut, the music instantly stopped, and the lights in the window went out. It was silent and black, as if anything inside no longer existed. Bob turned on the car lights, and I noticed there were no cars in the parking lot. And you could see the windows that were darkened. There was nothing inside. And we got in that car and just sped out of that parking lot, throwing up. The gravel got on the highway in silence and just like shaking, trying to catch our breath. And 10 miles down the road, we just looked at each other and said, what the fuck was that? We started asking each other, did this really happen? Because if it was just me, I would have dismissed it and said, nope, that didn't happen, and just gone on with it. But I wasn't alone. There were two of us who experienced the exact same thing. And so the next morning at breakfast, we were telling my sisters what had happened. So they said, let's go back there and check it out and see what it is. So then a few days later we went, and it was just, it was 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. As we pulled into the parking lot, I got that sinking feeling, like I wasn't sure. I wanted to go in there, but I knew that we were going in there. And we walk in, the place is pretty full. People are having food there and drinks. And I looked around to see if any of the people I had seen a week ago were in there, and I didn't recognize any of the faces. But when I looked up at the mural, they were all still there. The gunslinger, the card players, the barmaids, but there was no one in that doorway. It was empty. And as I looked around, I noticed the jukebox was no longer the Wurlitzer. So I looked for Chubby Checker on there, and it wasn't even on there. But the bartender was this young woman, and I asked her where the other bartender was. And she said, what other bartender? And I said, Saturday night, we were here, and there was a different bartender here. And she said, no. I said, it was really late. It was like probably 3 o'clock in the morning. She says, my dad owns this place, and he and I are the only ones who tend bar here. And we closed at midnight. The Roadhouse Saloon is still there, but it's changed. Now it's part of a little mini up north strip mall that includes an all-night gas station and gift shops. But the mural's still there, and there's still nobody in the doorway. And none of those people that were there that night are there.
Now then, everyone needs a little I'm hooked because it's like a cross between revisionist history and 6 Degrees of Separation. Discover how various historical strands are woven together to create a historical figure, a big idea, or an unthinkable tragedy, like how John Lennon's murder was actually 63 years in the making. Witness how their stories hinge on the past and influence the future. The show is already a chart topper. Get the thread with Ozzy. That's Ozzy, O-Z-Y, on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. The creators of Snap Judgement, welcome back to Spooked. Now, and the stories that I used to hear around the campfire when I was a kid, those came back from the dead only if they had some serious unfinished business. If you saw one, that was a bad sign, Jack. You're supposed to run away screaming, be outie. At least, that's what I would do. But fortunately, the folk in our next story, well, they're a better class of people. Spooked.
Okay, just to reiterate, we're listening to, whoop, can you see it? No. No. Where is it? No, you can't see it. Snap Judgement on NPR. It's episode number 822, Lost in Time. I love Snap Judgement. It's one of my favorites. And I'm working on blues singer Lauren Mitchell.
Humanities at the University of Arkansas in Monticello.
When Mark and his wife Rebecca first moved to the small town of Monticello, they instantly fell in love.
We saw a somewhat dilapidated but fascinating and beautiful old Victorian mansion with turrets and spires and a huge portico. It was almost a beautiful ruin.
They knew they had to have that house. A month later, Mark finally got a call from the homeowner, who agreed to give them a tour of the inside. But the evening before, Mark and his wife decided to drive by the house. Their 3 kids were with them.
We stopped in the street to sit and gaze at it, as we often did. The older boy said, "Who's that lady in the window?" And he pointed over to the 2nd-story south turret window. I saw a lady sitting there in the window. It looked like she was sitting at maybe a small table or desk, reading a book or writing a letter. And my wife said, "Oh, that must be the owner." We drive away. The next evening, my wife and I go to the house, and we get to meet the owner. Very, very charming older lady. And she showed us around the house, and then she took us upstairs to the 2nd floor, and she opened the door to the master bedroom, and the master bedroom was full of boxes and furniture, and we couldn't even get into the room. And I realized that this was the room with the window in which we'd seen the woman the night before. And I said to the owner, "Oh, but we saw you in the window last night." And she said, "Oh, no, as you can see, you can't even get to the window, and I haven't been in this room in months." And my wife even said something about, "Well, no, we all saw you." And that's when the owner said, "Have people in town been telling you that the house is haunted?" And I said, "Yeah, I've heard those stories, I'm not taken in by such silliness." And she says, "Well, it is." So many people had told us so many stories about the ghost in the house.
They said the house was haunted by a ghost named Liddell Allen, a woman who in real life killed herself in the master bedroom back in 1948.
The big question, the mystery, was why did she do it? Nobody knew. At the time of her suicide, everybody was shocked and nobody understood it. It was a mystery from the start, and over the years, it remained a mystery. My wife and I just liked the house because it was unique and beautiful, and we thought it would be fantastic to fix it up and live there.
And to Mark's surprise, the woman told them the house was theirs.
She also said that she had this strange feeling that we were meant to have the house. staircase. And I remember being struck that he was standing very still and he looked kind of pale, and I thought that maybe he wasn't feeling well. I say over my shoulder, well, how do you like your new house? And he doesn't answer me, and I say, well, do you like your new house? And he doesn't say anything. And then once I get the boxes situated, I turn, and he's not there. He was just gone. A little while later, I found him upstairs in his room watching a Star Wars movie, and I said, well, why didn't you say anything earlier when I asked you how you liked the house? And he said, what are you talking about, Dad? I haven't been downstairs since we had lunch. That was like hours ago. Didn't give it a whole lot of thought. But then there were related incidents within the next couple of days.
Like the time Jacob, the youngest boy, got mad at his older brother Joshua for coming into his room and whispering his name in his ear over and over again.
Jacob, Jacob, Jacob.
When Mark confronted Joshua, he said, Dad, I have no idea what you're talking about.
He's like, okay, what's going on? This is really weird. And I'm thinking, okay, well, we're exhausted from moving or something.
But as Mark and his family settled in those first few weeks, the house's notorious reputation was impossible to ignore.
We were bombarded with requests from paranormal investigators. And we said no. We said, no, we don't want to get involved in that. So I'm not, really taking any of this very seriously. However, one afternoon I was in the attic, and I was actually hanging out the attic window painting. I was perched on the ledge outside the window, risking my life in the name of historical and architectural preservation. I finally got to the point where I felt like I had done enough for the day, and I pulled myself into the attic, and I turned, and I noticed that my shadow was cast all the way across the attic to the opposite corner. And I thought, well, that's interesting. I can see my shadow all the way over there in the south turret room. I was in the north end of the attic. It just seemed odd that my shadow would be cast in that manner. And then I moved, but my shadow didn't move.
So when Mark got contacted again by a group of ghost hunters from Louisiana, he could no longer resist. And these ghost hunters seemed different.
They seem like reasonable people. They don't use psychics. They try to debunk things. They try to come up with explanations for what people interpret as paranormal activity.
So the ghost hunters came. They set up recording equipment throughout the 6,500 square foot house to see if they could capture any paranormal sounds. And after a long, uneventful night, they took off the following morning.
They came back a few weeks later for their reveal. And the lead investigator sat with me and my wife at our dining room table, and he said, Mark, do you want to ask me the question that homeowners always want to ask? And I said, well, yeah, what is that? And he said, well, they always want to ask, is my house haunted? And I said, okay. Is my house haunted? And he said, yes, definitely.
The investigator said his team had gathered over 40 audio recordings of sounds that they identified as paranormal, what they call electronic voice phenomenon, or EVPs. Then the investigator proceeded to play them for Mark from his laptop.
You hear, it's a woman's voice, and she says, I just lied. And then immediately after that she says, it was justified. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, this is really creepy. Who are these voices? And the lead investigator said, well, that's not one of the investigators. I had chills run down my spine.
The investigators said that most of the recordings picked up the voice of a woman. Mark immediately thought of Liddell Allen, the woman who killed herself in the house all those years ago.
And so, not long after that reveal session, I took a $10 digital audio recorder, battery operated, up to the attic one evening by myself. I decided I was going to have my own EVP session. And I'm sitting on an old couch up there, and I asked Liddell, why are you here? Probably not more than 10 minutes go by, and I'm already starting to get bored. And so I play back what I've recorded, and I hear my voice, of course. And then I hear very distinctly a woman's voice, and she says, I like it here. And the voice, it was like she was sitting next to me on that old couch. That was the evening when I realized for certain that we weren't alone. Because I knew I hadn't faked that EVP. I couldn't explain that. Okay, there was a ghost in my house, and she just talked to me. Saturday morning in August of 2009, I wake up, and I immediately felt a compulsion to go to the attic. It's like a voice in my head telling me to go to the attic, that if I did, I was going to find something. And I didn't really understand why I felt that compulsion. And we had been in the house for over 2 years, and I was pretty certain that I had found everything there was to find in the attic. But I found myself going up the attic stairs. I walked straight over to the edge of the south turret room, and I stood looking down at a small opening in the floor. It's a couple inches wide, 2 to 3 inches long. I just stood there looking down at it, and it was like that voice in my head telling me again, look more closely. So I got down on my knees, and I peered into this opening in the floor, and then I got a glimpse of a brown piece of paper. And so I reached into the opening, got a couple of fingers on the edge of this brown piece of paper, and pulled it out. To my surprise, it was an envelope. And I lifted up the flap, and inside were smaller envelopes. They were white. They're all postmarked 1948, and they were addressed to Liddell Allen Bonner. And I opened up the flap of one of the white envelopes and pulled out a letter, and the salutation was dearest, and it was signed love, and then under the word love was the initial P. And I realized that I had found a batch of love letters written to Liddell a couple of months before her suicide. I jumped up and I ran downstairs and got a claw hammer, ran back upstairs, and I pried up the floorboard. And underneath the floorboard were more letters. In total, about 80 letters, most of them from a man named Prentice Hemingway Savage.
Mark sat down on the attic floor and laid the letters out in chronological order. With the sun shining bright through the attic window, he began to read.
Prentice, he was a wealthy, successful businessman. He writes in his letters how much he loves her petiteness and how he can't keep his hands off of her. And enough, nothing terribly explicit, but enough to make it clear that he's eager for the next meeting.
Prentice writes, if you should show up around any part of the country north of the Mason and Dixon line, I'll find some reason to be there too.
There was just that problem of him being married. But Prentice was successful in convincing Liddell that their corresponding was okay, that their meeting somewhere was okay.
Although from what Mark could tell, Liddell knew better.
She was pretty paranoid. Now, she kept all of his letters, obviously, and she kept the letters of her friends in whom she confided about the affair.
In one letter, Prentice responds, what will I do with you if you don't quit worrying about your letters? So just dismiss that from your sweet little mind, my dear.
But she made Prentice promise to destroy her letters to him. In fact, he had to tear them up and then send the fragments back to her in his envelopes when he replied. And that's why in some of the envelopes, there are these scraps of letters stuck in the corners of the insides of the envelopes that are scraps of letters that Liddell wrote to him.
Prentice and Liddell get deeper and deeper into this torrid love affair. They find a way to meet in Wisconsin and then Minnesota, where they spend 2 blissful weeks together. Prentice writes, "These last 5 days will live in my memory always, as the happiest ones in my entire life. I love you. Don't ever forget I'm thinking of you always."
And I'm there on my knees on the attic floor holding this letter. It's really hot and I'm sweating. It seemed unreal. I'm immersed in the time of those individuals, March and April and May of 1948. And the letters are elaborate, they're vivid, they're full of expressions of affection and of growing affection.
And it's not long before Prentice starts talking about leaving his wife. He writes, "I know now more than ever that you and I should work out the details we talked over. I shall do my part soon."
One of the things that they've been corresponding about for months is how he's going to be in Monticello for the holidays. By Christmas, everything's going to be settled. He and Liddell will spend Christmas together. But then there's a decidedly negative turn in early December. He writes her a letter, and he complains about going to the dentist, and he complains about being really busy, and then he says, "I can't leave my wife after all. I just don't see it happening, at least not anytime soon." And he says in the letter he doesn't know when he'll be able to write her again.
Prentice signs off. "Take good care of yourself, dear."
Oh my God.
I'm thinking, I knew how the story was going to end.
Liddell would never receive another letter from Prentice.
Ugh.
So it was December 25th evening. Liddell attended her mother's Christmas party. She mingled with the guests. I think she was holding out some hope that Prentice would show up for Christmas, that he would surprise her. And late in the evening, when he had not shown up, she prepared herself a plate of hors d'oeuvres and a glass of punch, and she went up to the master bedroom, which was her room. And she used the punch and the hors d'oeuvres to mask the taste of mercury cyanide tablets. I'd been in the attic for several hours at that point. I looked up at the rafters and said, "I'm so sorry, Liddell." People often ask whether she's still there, and she is. One day, this was in April of 2014, I was walking into the master bedroom. I saw my wife on the other side of the room in front of one of the turret windows, and her back was to me. What struck me as odd was that she's looking out the window, but she didn't have the curtain pulled back. I'm about to ask her what she's doing, and I literally had my mouth open to speak to her when she vanished. She just completely disappeared right in front of my eyes.
Did you ever have an encounter of inexplicable kind? We're thrilled to hear your stories on Spook. Record yourself on your phone device thing and send it to spooked@spookpodcast.org. And know this, if you can't get enough Spooked and hear full episodes 3 days early, just download the TuneIn app. Download the TuneIn app. Get full episodes of Spooked. Big thanks today to Jim Harold, the host and producer of the podcast, Jim Harold's Campfire. Without Jim, we would never have met T.I., and we would never have stumbled to that terrifying saloon. Huge thanks as well to Mark Spencer, who told us about the love letters he discovered. We'll have links at spookedpodcast.org. Our Twitter, Facebook, Instagram handle, SpookPod. Listen to new Spooked episodes each week as we make our way toward All Hallows Eve. Spook was produced by the Ghostbusters at Snap Snap Judgement special thanks to Mark Wistage, Anna Sussman, Eliza Smith, and Jody Colley. Original music by Pat Mesiti-Miller, Renzo Gorio, and Leon Morimoto. On the next spook, we catch the ghost on film. And everyone needs a little help. Everyone. What if the person asking for assistance hasn't been seen in 40 years? Until then, even when the vampire rises from the crypt to suck your blood, always remember and don't forget to never, ever turn out the lights.
Okay, that was Snap Judgement, which I just love. Man of Steel, I think I already heard that one. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, let's see what we can find. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to take a break. I've made some progress. Like I said, it's really hard to see here, I think. But I pulled her hair in a little bit, which is helping to even out her face. Wait a minute. Let's try this. Yeah, no, still not the greatest picture. But it's helped to even out her face. She was way far out there. I've also started pulling in colors from the couch, from her dress, kind of intermingling different colors, which is helping her to balance out just a little bit. I mean, I've got a long ways to go, and the whole second panel to work on as well. But I'm feeling much more confident about this. But right now, I think I'm just going to sit down. I'm going to wash up, take a break, have some more coffee in my little Utrex cup, and yeah, I've got cats all over my couch. I've got my cat Tiger, who I just call Kitty, and then we've got a friend's cat who's staying with us for a while. Her name is Puppet. So they've kind of taken over the couch, and then Bugsy's laying off over there. But I'm going to see if I can find a space and kind of chill for a bit. And I might come back on. I don't know. It just depends. But so that's it. All right, and probably see you either later tonight or again tomorrow. And I hope you get some work done. Okay, ciao.